Hi and welcome back. This is a follow-up on my March project. I want to talk about my mushroom project here. And it started out with me just having a reference photo from Pixabay that I wanted to use. And so this is very a loose interpretation of the reference photo. And I had a stack of art supplies I wanted to use. So here I used Derwent tinted charcoal. The first layers I painted down with water, and then the last layers I just used the pencils themselves directly on here. And it has gotten a layer of fixative at the very end of it. This is as a speak paint on my channel, and I had so much fun doing this. There are some things I could bitch about this. There's something about the here I'm not happy about, and what did that trunk need to be there for and stuff. But overall, I'm quite happy, and I'm really happy with how the color scheme turned out. Now the whole stack, I got 8 that I'm happy with, and I got 3 that I'm not happy with. I got these over here. So I have done them in pairs. All of them are with different mediums. So each picture has a different medium used for it. But I've done them in pairs on the same kind of paper. So the first 2 are done on this Fabriano watercolor paper. Aquarello Grana Fina. All the papers I've used is 300 GSM. This is 25% cotton. I didn't notice the cotton really in this. It felt very much like a cellulose paper to paint on, and it has some texture. It's a cold press, what you would normally call a NOT, a knot. It's not rough, but it has some texture, and you can actually see the texture. Let me get the zoom button. You can tell the texture here in the detailing. That's where the color is a little uneven, but it worked well with this image. So 2 days later I did this one. I am quite sure this is also as a speed paint on my channel. Some of them I got as speed paints, some of them I just filmed and I mucked up the filming process, so there is no speed paints of those. But this one there is. And this is Graphitint, and it is on the same paper. It is the other half sheet of the Fabriano watercolor paper here. And again, the texture shows through, especially down in this corner in the grass. But it really works out well with the color scheme and stuff. So I've got this kind of a roughness to it. And I was quite happy with this. This was actually a reference photo from Unsplash. And I forgot the photographer's name. I'll try and find the links for the photos and the link in the description. But it was a really cute photo, and again I only loosely followed the photo. So let's put the Fabriano paperwork away. Then I wanted to do just real watercolor, and this one is also, I think, okay, did I give it up? I think I gave up. I painted it with, I got this huge palette here, and it's my Mary Blue palette, where I have my 3 primary colors, and over here I have some a color called Dragon Blood. I got some black in here as well that I put in, but I never used. But so I used 4 colors to paint with, and all of the greens and stuff you see in here is all mixed up by the primary colors. So that was a watercolor painting, and I paused the camera and I had to go do something, and my cat stepped up on my palette and on my painting. So this snail was supposed to be like translucent, transparent, yellowish pale, and he stepped right on it. so I had to cover that up because he stepped in a flight of blue that just did not lift at all. I couldn't get it off the paper again. So I changed the color, and this is actually a mixed media piece because I used watercolor pencils for this. I used my Caran d'Ache Super Color to fix up the snail after that mishap. The rest is just my Mary Blue. And I actually added Kitty's name on the signing. But it was quite good. And we changed paper. This and the next one is on Sonus Waterford. It is from St. Cuthbert's Mill, and it's the white hot press. And this is 100% cotton, and so this is a quite smooth surface, and I really enjoyed working on it. And the thing about this paper, and that might be a personal preference, if you can see, it's kind of grainy, even though it's a hot press. It has kind of, so the paint gets this slightly mottled look. It's kind of hard to show on camera. It has a little bit of texture to it still, and I like it because I don't want things to be just flat colored, so it suits me fine. I don't know if it bothers others, but I really like this paper, and I like the motif, and I had great fun, except for that I had to fix it. Thank you, Neptune. This one is, can I count? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this one is on the same paper. It just didn't feel like it. And this I did with soft pastels. I did it with my Rembrandt set I have here. I got a 90 half stick set. You can buy these sets with half sticks. I don't remember how. There's a 60 set, and I think there's a 30 set as well or something. And you can try them out. And if you don't do like I did, drop them all on the floor, there's actually a piece of paper where you can see which is which color, because there is no wrappings on these. But they are the real deal. They are the real Rembrandt soft pastels. And even the 90 set is fairly affordable, so you can try out a lot of colors. They're super soft and super nice to work with. Now, the only thing about this painting, and that is also an Unsplash reference photo, by the way. The only thing about this was that I did not take into account when I did the drawing what media I was going to use. So I had like fine stems of grass, and I put in the ladybug, and that mushroom actually has some really fine lines in the hat here, and that was a little bit tricky to do with a big chunky pastel, but I think I managed pretty okay, and it came out better than I dared hope for. There was a couple of times where I was going, no, this is not gonna work, but it did at the end, so I'm happy with it. And I used water to blend and smooth things out at the base layers. And I know there's a lot of people on YouTube saying, oh, you can just use water to fixate your pastels with. And that is true to a point. If you don't do a lot of layers, you can fixate them at the base there, and you can use them to mix with and stuff. If you do just thin layers, you can almost use them as watercolors. They don't flow like watercolors, but you can fixate them to the paper. Now, especially in this dark area, I have a lot of layers. I got 10 layers or more. And then you can't fixate it anymore with water. It came off when I touched it when it was dry. So I have given this fixative, plus all the fine line details, I have not touched with water. I've just put them in and let them be as they are. The paper was a joy to work on. With this as well, even though it's not all that textured. Normally you would use more textured paper for pastels, but this came out quite okay. So that was 2 of those, so we put this one away, because the next 2 are done on Fabriana Artistico extra white 100% cotton hot pressed paper, and this is on a quart of these. I could get 4 pieces out of, because this is almost an A3 kind of size. It's not a regular A3, it's a 12 by 18 or 30.5 by 45.5, and that's not quite standard A3 anywhere, I know, as far as I know, but it's thereabouts. So this one I painted with my Winsor Newton watercolor markers, and it was a lot more work, and the rest of these I actually didn't use reference photos for. It was a lot more work than it had to be, because I was using this, and I was kind of painting it out on a palette and picking it up to make the thin washed out colors here in the back, the light colors, and I was trying to build up layers that way, but it took so long because it doesn't give off a whole lot of pigment at any given time. So to get the really dark parts, I used there's a brush nib on here at one end, and there's a bullet nib on the other end. So I used the marker directly on the paper for like the dark parts here and in here, and that in there, and the dark shadings under the leaves there, and I think I used it a bit in here as well. So on their own, I don't think they're good for working as a solo media. I like them better than the first time I used them, but in the future I'll probably use them just for detailing. To work on them alone, it just takes too long, and it's not a benefit. I could have, this took me like 2.5 hours to do in real time, and it just took, I could have done it in much shorter time if I had used just regular watercolors, and have gotten the same kind of result. Now, I'm not afraid of doing fine details with brushes, but I think these markers could be good for people who are a little intimidated by doing the fine detailing with brushes. So they could be helpful for somebody who feels better about drawing in their details with a marker. But one marker, if I have to buy a new one, costs as much as a half pan of Winsor Newton artist paint watercolor, the professional watercolor, and I bet you that the half pan will last me a lot longer than a marker, because there's not a whole lot in one of these, and they're not refillable either. So nah, I have to say I'm not a big fan of that, but I like the picture I got out of it. The paper was actually a total delight to work with, no problems. It took all the abuse that I put it through. It buggles a little more than I like for a 300 GSM paper. So that is actually one that I want to try out in a heavier version. And this is the same paper, but this is the Inktense, both the block and the pencils, from Derwent. And I had so much fun doing this. I actually don't know why I don't use them more than I do. So I got them sitting here next to me actually. I did one thing with this painting that I deeply regret. I bought some washi tape at a store close by. It's very cute. It got these little colored leaves on it and all, but I'm not ever using it for watercoloring again, because it left glue residue on my paper, so it's sticky. I can't really touch the edges of this. It's disgustingly sticky, but I'm happy with the painting. I was feeling an urge doing this to grab a colored fine liner and go in and do some detailing on this, but my concept was to try and not do mixed media, but do single medias. And you will see the videos I posted has been posted as lost and found art supplies too, because I've been using, for the most part, art supplies that I haven't used for a while, or a couple of them not at all. And after this, my trouble started. So bad, I nearly gave up. I have been using this paper, XL Mixed Media, for a few things. You can see I have done other mushrooms in another day and with different medias, and I did this bird in here, and I've been pretty happy with it. So I thought, I'll use it with the watercolor pencils, and I did that one. And yes, I know, some of you go, what's the matter with that? Well, there's the matter with it that if I tilt it the right way, I could do it before, like that. See all these shiny parts? That is parts where I can't go in and add anything more. This paper will not take very many layers with watercolor pencils. It fills up with wax or whatever the carrier is. So I wanted to go in and do detailing at the underside of that and the underside of this one, and instead I just got one big blurry mess and shiny paper. Even if I add water to this, I can't do anything. And I tried to scribble it out on my Caran d'Ache palette on the side and just paint the color on, and it just didn't work. And it didn't, the paper also doesn't hold on to the pigment very well, so the previous layers would lift up and mix out, and it was just not a pleasure. I love the colors of this. This is their own watercolor pencils, and I love these. They have the best palette for anything like nature scenes like this. It's just great. But the paper didn't work with me. I did sign it though and go, well, okay, yeah. But I decided, well, I'm gonna try again. So I grabbed another mixed media paper that I have enjoyed using. And this is huge. This is an A3. It's Faber-Castell mixed media pad, and it's that's actually only a 250 gram paper. And I've used it for. This is a painting I did with. What is this? This is acrylic gouache and acrylic inks and acrylic markers, and I had super much fun doing this. And I have done this. That's marker of some sort, and again some gouache that I didn't finish. So it's paper that I have enjoyed using. So I thought, okay, this is good, and I tried using that, and it did better, but not all that much better, and I gave up again. I got into the same problem where the pigments didn't hold onto the paper, or the paper didn't grab the pigments well enough, so all the detailing started to smear out, and it actually also started pilling so bad. Actually, no, I'm wrong. That was not that paper. That was my paint-on paper from Clairefontaine. I didn't try. Actually, I should try the Faber-Castell paper. So yeah, this one is fabulous. This one is fantastic for regular colored pencils, but it was pilling with all. You can. Let's see if I can get it close enough and fix the focus. You can see that uneven where it is light and dark, and that is because the paper started to pill. So that didn't turn out alright either, and it boggled also a bit more, but it's also 250 GSM. So I gave up on this one too, and I was kind of sad because I was actually quite happy with the drawing. So yeah, I haven't tested the the Faber-Castell out actually, but it didn't work with me. So I was a little bit in a pinch for paper, because what else I got for watercolor type paper is mostly rough paper for wet and wet stuff. So I stayed on with the Derwent colored pencils, and then I got this one out, and I was kind of like, this is probably not gonna work. This is called the Langton. It's from Dale and Rowney. It's a cold pressed, not fine grain cellulose paper. It's not very expensive, but it turned out it was actually quite okay. It was just really difficult to use with the colored pencils, because it took so many layers before I covered the structure in the paper. This was actually the most textured of the papers I've used, and but I got this far, and I was going, yeah, okay, this is okay. It's not the best of them, of my paintings in this session. It would have been better on a hot press, I'm quite sure. But I love the colors. That really turned out great. And yeah, I kind of gave up before I put in more details, because it was difficult to do nice detailing on this type of paper. But yeah, turned out okay. And then the last one, actually, I should have been this one, and this should be some fungus that grows on pine tree stem trunks. And I did this with Winsor Newton gouache, but it wasn't going the right way, and I built up too thick layers too quickly. I could continue with this, but the thing about gouache is that you get to kind of a magic point where the paper can't take any more color. Well, it can, and you can build up, but if you then flex the paper at all, then the paint will start to crack, and I'm getting close to that point with these, and they just look like tea hoods on a board or something. It wasn't going anywhere. I had fun, but I could just tell that this was not gonna be my painting. So I cut up another piece of paper, and I did this one also on the Langton paper. And for that I used my knockoff real brush pens, watercolor pens, and the sky and the stem and the stuff, the white pale parts of the mushrooms here, I did mix up in my ink cup here, just scribble it down and painted it on. But I had a little bit of the same problem as with the watercolor markers, that it took too long to build up really a good intense color. So I ended up doing most of it with actually the brush pencil directly on the paper, and it worked out okay, but I only got 10 colors, so I was kind of missing. The trunk here got a little darker than I wanted it, because yeah, I could probably have sat here through a whole week, painted on layers, and it would have gotten there eventually, but it had been easier if I had more colors. So it actually makes sense now that certain companies who do these pens give out quite a lot of colors. It was fun enough to do, and there's actually a mixed media also, because I cheated. I used my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Bullet Nib white pen for the white dots on the mushrooms. So it was, and now I'm feeling burned out. Now I don't have any more lost and found media, test out paper mushrooms in me for now. Now I might do some of the same kind of things with little things in the forest floor type of thing. I've actually been out taking some photos, and I'll continue to do that over the spring and summer. So that you might see me do more things like this, but I will. I've kind of gone just haphazardly. It's like, yeah, so what am I gonna do today? I'm gonna use this media and whatever paper I got. I will be a little more structured and say, okay, I'll actually match up my paper with my choice of media going forward. But it was fun, and I met 2 artistic goals that I had set for myself for this year that I haven't shared with anybody, because if I failed, I didn't want to discuss it with anybody. It's the same thing. If I go on a diet, I also never tell anybody, because I really don't need anybody to ask me, so how's your diet? I'm like, yeah, I ate 2 cakes and 3 bags of candy and 2 bags of chips for breakfast. I don't do that bad, but you know what I mean. So goals I set for myself, I keep to myself until I'm getting there. And I had 2 goals, and one was to actually finish some stuff on a regular basis. And the other thing was, what I finished, I would like to have that it was a full painting with where I filled out my painting area with stuff. And I've done that, and I'm quite pleased with it. And actually I have 3 art goals, because I'm also not doing it super realistic. I'm just trying to do it as long as it is fun, and when I think it's done, it's done, and I'll leave it at that. So that was, I think that's what I got to say about this project. I quite like the lantern paper, and I want to do some more on it, but I want to do some watercoloring on it that fits the paper better. So thank you all for following my journey through ups and downs and sideways and detours. Please like and subscribe, and I will be back with something more. I think I'll be doing something with watercolor paper soon. So stay tuned.